Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story that we are tracking for you. After 2 days of Democrats putting their case with unseen video footage of January 6th Capitol Hill siege, now former U.S. President Donald Trump's defense lawyers will present their set of evidence. The team has revealed that it will only need 4 of the 16 hours granted by the House leader. The defense team is expected to use freedom of speech to defend Trump's rally on the 6th of January. Its main plank may be whether a former president should be impeached at all. Now, they are also going to argue that Trump cannot be blamed for riotous actions. Over the course of the last 2 days of the Senate evidence, the Democrats argued Donald Trump had shown a pattern of condoning violence, and they also argued that he did nothing on the Capitol siege day to prevent the riot. U.S. President Joe Biden also commented on the trial. Listen in.
Pursuant to the provisions of Senate Resolution 47.
Impeachment managers have rested.
I'm just anxious to see what my Republican friends do. Will they stand up?
And you're not planning to speak with any of them about what they should do or how they should vote?
And do you think the former president?
As most Republicans remain unmoved, acquittal is the likely verdict. The Democrats have said that acquitting Donald Trump might lead to the future incitement of violence by the former U.S. president. A 2/3 majority is required to convict Donald Trump, which means that at least 17 Republicans will have to vote against Trump. Now, Donald Trump has chosen to not testify during the trial. If the former U.S. president is convicted, the Senate could then vote to bar him from holding office again. Democratic-led House of Representatives voted to impeach Trump last month for a second time. Now, the only U.S. president to face 2 impeachments. He was accused of inciting what unfolded in Capitol Hill on the 6th of January. Trump supporters attacked the Senate House to stop Joe Biden's election victory from being certified. 5 people lost their lives. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, from New York. It's great to have you with us, Susan. So the Democratic prosecution has wrapped up their arguments, and they have lambasted a possible First Amendment defense, saying that, in fact, this was an assault of the First Amendment. Take us through this.
That's right. The Democrats had the opportunity to really present their case and showcase evidence and videos of the allegations against former President Donald Trump, which is inciting an insurrection. Today, what's going to happen is that the defense is going to come out with their own set of theatrics, if you may, and videos, and say what they call how things really happened. Not a direct quote, but that's what they were referring to, and how the events really unfolded, and they're going to present their timeline. They've called what the Democrats have put forth as manipulative and political theater. They said that they pick and chose sound bites from Donald Trump, and that they have evidence themselves. They're also expected to play video and footage of the Democratic Party leaders, possibly Chuck Schumer, who is the Senate Majority Leader now, formally saying to fight election results when Donald Trump was elected, and other Democrats who basically use the word fight or go out and fight, so on and so forth. And one Republican senator said that it won't be surprising if the lawyers came out and said if there is a single senator or a single politician in this room who has not used the word fight, then, stand up. And they'll be very sure that, everyone has used that fight, but it's never been taken so literally. As you mentioned, they're also going to talk about the right to free speech by the former president, the First Amendment rights. And they're also going to argue in part about the constitutionality of trying a former president, which is kind of odd considering the fact that that has already been voted by the Senate and the majority of Republicans, all but 6. What's very interesting is last night, before the defense, the lawyers of former President Donald Trump met with 3 Republican senators, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and Senator Lee. Now, they also sit on the jury of this impeachment trial, but Ted Cruz came out and said that, this is nothing secret. We basically talked to the lawyers and talked about the path forward, and perhaps that was the conversation that led to the fact for the lawyers to come out and say that this defense is only going to take 3 or 4 hours because they probably have their ducks lined up. And at the end of the day, you know, it's very difficult to believe that Donald Trump is really going to be convicted. Right. So maybe that's part of the reason why they're not going to really have a lengthy defense.
Right. I do want to touch on another thing, is that what has been mentioned in the impeachment beside the insurrection, for which Trump could be perhaps tried criminally, is for the pressurizing phone calls that he made personally to political officials telling them to find the votes that he needed.
That's right. So there are 2 criminal cases being launched against Donald Trump. This is separate from the impeachment trial. These are states that have basically put forth these cases. And one of them is New York, and the other is the phone call that you mentioned Donald Trump had with one of the attorney generals that was looking for you know, votes, so to say. So we have to see how separately those criminal cases are also going to be proceeded. But the message here is very clear that, you know, the focus on Donald Trump isn't going away, because those cases can now be tried not against only a former president, but a private citizen as well. They're criminal. And this is, you know, what's happening in Washington, albeit that the Democrats want it to be criminal. It probably won't lead to that.
Right. One thing that you have touched on is that acquittal is the likely verdict, as most Republicans remain unmoved, and there would need to be a minimum of 17 Republicans who cross the aisle. Now, having said that, they've also said this insurrection was preceded by months of inciting violence, and have used the words and video clips of the rioters themselves. The Democratic prosecution has used this to prove this. But in your opinion, have they built a strong enough case? Some critics have likened it to an entertainment show.
Absolutely. I mean, not to take sides here, but there are, when I talk to majority of Americans, everyday Americans, first of all, they're not very interested in this trial. They know the result. They already had a preview with Donald Trump's relationship with Ukraine about a year ago with that impeachment and how it went nowhere. And right now the American public really is focusing on what's going to happen with their livelihood and how Joe Biden is going to proceed with this economic stimulus package that he plans to pass in a Senate that's going to be even more divided than before after this impeachment trial. You rightly mentioned it has an entertaining factor to it, but it's also very dark in a way that the mainstream media and these politicians basically think that the American people are so interested and invested in this trial that they live broadcast it on almost every single news channel. And frankly, America isn't really watching. America will be watching how the Senate will decide to move after this, past this, what the climate will be in Washington, past this impeachment trial, to make a determination on how to vote in 2022, which I will tell you, every single politician who is involved in this impeachment trial is thinking about their constituents back home. So an entertainment factor in some way, but perhaps without the real star, Donald Trump, it's not so entertaining after all.
Absolutely, Susan. Thanks very much for bringing us that report and all the details, helping us make sense of that, the latest on the impeachment. WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.